I mean, I'd like to start with the Hulk. Is that okay?
Yeah,
I understand it's 25 or so. Okay, so you remember a while ago we had Hulk, and they couldn't quite decide whether it was Hulk or the Hulk. It was one of those things in which in some territories it was Hulk, other territories
it was not good.
No, but the thing you knew, fine. The thing that you knew it wasn't was that it wasn't the Incredible Hulk, because there was a definite attempt to distance it from the television series, you know, which everybody thought was a little bit rubbish. Although now apparently it's been reassessed and everybody thinks it's a little bit brilliant. And the original Hulk was directed by Ang Lee, who's the guy who directed Brokeback Mountain and directed Lost Caution and directed The Wedding Party, and he's basically this very, very, you know, highbrow, intelligent, culturally interesting, not what you think of as sort of mainstream schlockbuster director. And consequently what he did was he said, oh well, what I think is interesting about this is it's all to do with character, and it's all to do with the difficulties of the characters, and blah 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 blah, and the fans didn't like it at all, and the gag was that, you know, Hulk, you won't like me when I'm Ang Lee. Boom boom. Fine. See, get it? See what they did there? Fine. And when I saw Hulk, part of me thought, well, you know, I sort of admire the fact that you're trying to make this a character study, because the central thing about Hulk is it's nice guy on the outside. It's Jekyll and Hyde, right? He's nice on the outside. He's a sort of specky professor, but he has this thing that happens to him to do with gammas, and it unleashes the beast within. So it's the classic Jekyll and Hyde story. And what Ang Lee was trying to do was to make it all about that story and make it all about the central torturousness of the character. And then you had Eric Bana in the library, and I actually like Eric Bana very much. I wasn't crazy about the other Berlingo. I thought he did a pretty good Henry VIII, and he's absolutely fantastic in that movie Chopper. But of course, nobody else liked Hulk, and I didn't like it. I thought it was a bad movie, but I thought it was at least an honourable failure. So now we have the new Hulk movie, which is called The Incredible Hulk, therefore directly referencing actually these comic book sources and the TV show, which they seem to have taken on board. Now out goes Ang Lee, in comes Louis, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrongly, Louis Leterrier, who's the guy who directed the Transporter movies. Jason Statham.
Oh,
Jason. He's right. Yeah. Well, I like Jason Statham. I particularly like the Transporter movies because there's a fantastic moment in one of the Transporter movies in which Jason Statham, for reasons which are known only to the filmmakers. Have you ever seen the Transporter movie? No, fine. There's a brilliant. You know who Jason Statham is, right?
Yes.
Jason Statham has to have a wrestling match with somebody, but for completely convoluted reasons. In order to do this, what he has to do is take off his clothes and spread oil all over the floor, and then oil his very well-formed manly torso before going into exactly. And it's one of those great moments when I was doing some research about male. This is true. I was doing some research about male wrestling on in movies for a piece that I was writing for the Observer. It's in print. I have the proof. And I googled Jason Statham oil wrestling, and you'd be amazed at how many sites come up if you put those words into the Google.
Were your kids around when you were doing?
No. I was working.
Okay.
Anyway, fine. Anyway, so Louis Leterrier.
Try googling Kermode oil male wrestling.
Fine,
see what happens.
fine. So anyway, so the deal is they said, okay, let's try and move away from the art house thing that happened before, and let's move more into what the fans want, which is more action, which is more stuff happening, which is more big monsters charging around, and in the end, big monsters charging around, hitting each other. So, in the arc, and I use the term advisedly, of the film, you have on the one hand your central character played by Ed Norton, who is the the specky scientist who has inside him the Hulk, and you then have his nemesis, which is at the top level William Hurt, but more specifically Tim Roth, who, how do we know Tim Roth's really bad? Because he's Russian English. I think that's the universal axis of evil in terms of in Hollywood movies. Okay, we're all right to dislike all this. It's absolutely fine, Russian English, and he during the course of the movie has to take on his own special powers. So therefore, in the end, you get two monsters running. And again, I don't think I'm giving anything away because I think that's actually in the trailer. Are we allowed at this point to mention the thing that I wasn't going to mention before because the guy said it's in the trailer?
Yeah, why not?
There's a bit at the end when Robert Downey Jr. turns up because it's Iron Man all being brought in for the franchise's league of whatever it is, diddly bong, blah-de blah-de. Fine.
Feel free to introduce a clip.
Oh, okay, fine. But still,
anytime.
Essentially, no, I'm going to do this now.
Okay.
But still, essentially, the story is sensitive guy with beast inside. Here's a bit of the sensitive guy. Here's the thing with Hulk. in the end, the problem with, I think that the premise of the story is it wants to be Jekyll and Hyde, but the problem, the way Jekyll and Hyde works is that you have the idea of the civilized man with the uncivilized beast inside, which kind of breaks out and is, scary, and is its ego and id, and it's the dark side of the stuff that we know. In the case of Hulk, what happens is you have this very sort of soul-seeking, tortured, intelligent guy who's got this beast inside him, which has been caused by all this experimentation stuff. But when he turns into it, it is, and I know everyone said this, he is just angry Shrek. He is basically the Jolly Green Giant in stretchy pants. And no matter what you do, that is a very hard obstacle to overcome. Now, to some extent, when you do it in a graphic, I'm trying to be specific about this because it's very, very easy to just sneer. When you do it in a graphic novel, there are ways of describing, of drawing the character of the Hulk that doesn't have quite the ludicrous edge that it does when you do it on screen. But when you do it on screen, when you've got real life up against what is inevitably the CGI. In this case, it's stop motion, and apparently the stop motion stuff, a lot of it is actually not stop motion, motion capture. Apparently a lot of it is actually done, by Ed Norton doing the original motions, and then the digitization happens. But it is still, in the end, a big Jolly Green Giant which looks like a cartoon character and doesn't look very angry or scary. Now, the second problem with that is, in order for Hulk to work, you have to believe in the anger of Hulk, because what Hulk is an embodiment of the character's anger. And I would, for example, compare it to, there's a David Cronenberg movie called The Brood, which is absolutely brilliant. And in The Brood, the central character gives birth to the children of her rage. She gets involved with this really weird thing called psychoplasmics, which makes her body physicalize her internal rage, and it's absolutely terrifying. There's this kind of army of creatures that look like they've run off the set of Don't Look Now, and they're really, really scary. In the case of Hulk, I don't believe that the Hulk is that angry, because he bounces around. Point 3, whatever you do with the CGI, and this is, I'm afraid, for people watching rather than listening, CGI monsters do this.
Camp. They camp.
No, it's not to do with their camp.
Camp.
No. Well, that's
limp-wristed mincing.
The camp. No, I'm not doing limp-wristed mincing. What I'm doing is, it's that weird sort of flibbity-bobbity, biddly-boddly.
So everybody watching this streaming thinks that's camp.
Fine. Well, okay. If there is campness in it, that's me. But what I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to say that Hulk, when he turns into Hulk, is camp. What I'm trying to say is that the CGI rendering of Hulk, and it was the same with the Ang Lee film, and the same with this, no matter how many advances they've made, it is still that sense of something which doesn't have a physicality. It's a sense of something which is it's a sort of watery, riddly, sort of bouncy, kind of floppy, not great big terrifying in the sort of plastic reality way of the Godzilla movies, for example, in which it was a bloke dressed up as Godzilla. It was a bloke in a suit. And I know some of this stuff is done with suits. I know some of this stuff is done with prosthetics. I know some of it's done with... And yet the cumulative effect of it is, like you're watching some CGI, creation, and it doesn't have any physical mass. So what you get is, you take away the Ang Lee intense characterization, you replace it with Ed Norton, who apparently did some work on the script. I mean, I was trying to figure this out. I don't think he's listed in the credits as a screenwriter. It says it is reported that at some point he did a pass through the script, and he certainly said that he did a pass through the script, and so he's got some kind of input into it. And I don't think he's the main input into it, but he has some input into it. So you have his character, the nice guy, the tortured scientist, the guy who's trying to deal with his relationship with Liv Tyler, and then you have Hulk, and the two things appear to be completely disconnected. And literally, the minute he turns into Hulk, I go, no, I don't care. And the minute he turns into Hulk versus Tim Roth, who's turned into anti-Hulk, I don't care times 2. So it is...
You either care or you don't care. I don't think you can really, really not care.
I found my level of not caring went down in exactly the same way that it did at the end of Iron Man, when Robert Downey Jr. is in the suit, and then Jeff Bridges gets into the suit, and then it is just the two robots hitting each other. So I think overall, I think it is better than Hulk, in as much as it will please the fans more. There is, it gives them more of the stuff that they probably want, which is the straightforward, romping action sequences, and it is far lighter on it's almost as if it's kind of given up on the psychology to some extent. It's gone, look, we understand that this simply isn't going to work as a character study. So part of me thinks, well done for at least realizing what it is that you've got to work with, and saying, this is the hand we've been dealt. This is what we're going to do. Because I think fundamentally at the bottom of all this, and I'm sorry it may be heretical, I just don't think Hulk's a very good franchise. I don't think Hulk's a very good creature. I don't think that darkness that's meant to be explained by, the erupting of the great big green giant beast, I think it doesn't add up to very much. And it particularly doesn't add up to very much. I'll stop in a minute. It particularly doesn't add up to very much when you take it off the page. If it worked at all, it worked on the page. You take it off the page, you get this. I mean, I incidentally have no love of the TV series, and yet there was at least in the dimensions of the TV series some sense that Lou Ferrigno might be related to the other guy. In this, it's like the camera zooms in, his eyeballs go green, and then it's wibbly wobbly angry Shrek.